Good morning. You're listening to WPVM LP in Nashville, North Carolina, 103.7 on your dial. This is the BLAINESWORLD show, heard each Wednesday at 9 a.m. And you can also watch on WPVM's Facebook page. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm here in my lovely Zoom studio in Fairview, North Carolina. And each week what we do is we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in the local area and throughout the country. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first two guests, and they are Janice Guazzo and Kai Hamilton. And you can say hello, guys, to all your Facebook friends. So if
hello
watching
out
on
there
Facebook,
in Facebook world,
you got it. And Janice, I should mention, is now the president of the Hendersonville Community Theatre Board. She's been involved in community theater for over 15 years. Most of the time, you'll find her behind the curtain or in the business office, whether it be marketing and digital media or stage management and costume design. In the last 5 years in WNC, has been challenging and exciting for her. She is currently, as mentioned, the president of the Hendersonville Community Theatre, as well as the executive director. Kai Elijah Hamilton was born in Western North Carolina. He has a long list of creative ventures, including film and feature theater as an actor, director, designer, critic, and writer. He was a previous artistic director of Hendersonville Community Theatre, has been with the theater since around 2005, when you were just a little boy. Is that correct, Kai?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Okay, a little bit.
Little boy, just real little.
Exactly. Now you're a big boy. Well, let me ask you guys, I'm always interested, especially when I meet somebody for the first time. So I'll start with this with Janice. How you got into like a love for theater? Like, did you always have it?
I used to sing in high school, but I never really got involved with theater. I actually started doing a website for a theater in Tennessee, in 2005, and kind of started getting involved with them, doing marketing and stuff like that, and then got involved here when my son in 5th grade decided he was going to do theater. So of course, being his chauffeur, that's how I got dragged into it.
Now, have you ever been on stage in any production?
I have. They wound up getting me on stage at Flat Rock and here at some point. Yes.
Okay. Do you see yourself doing that again?
I don't have the bandwidth of memory anymore.
Well, I asked the question, and you'll see when I ask it of Kai, but I always thought it'd be cool if people could recreate their first experience. Like you mentioned, you got into it later, but as a kid, did you ever do any performing or acting or singing?
In grammar school, we had actually my music teacher was, and one of our 5th grade teachers used to write plays, and we were in them like 4th, 5th, 6th grade. So yeah, I always enjoyed it, but never really thought of doing it after school, that kind of thing.
I want you to remember this, Janice, because I'm going to make an offer here on the air, and I mentioned to other people as well. I have this great idea for a fundraiser. And the fundraiser is that everybody would do you heard this before?
You told me this once already.
Yes. I remember we were talking about it.
Yep.
But I want to do it, and great. Everybody would do their first role. So you'd have to go back to 5th grade when you were in 5th grade and just recreate only 5 minutes. But so Alex and other people could see it, the rest of life. Because I'll ask you, the 5th grade experience, did they tape that? Do you have a record of that?
I have photographs. That's all I have.
But wouldn't that be a cool idea? And Kai, I want to ask you the same question I maybe asked you before, but do you remember your very first theatrical experience?
Yes.
What was it?
I was, believe it or not, very, very shy when I was a kid. So when I went to college, Blue Ridge Community College, actually, and I kind of tiptoed into theater and worked a little bit with the importance of being earnest. And the very next year, I was thrown into a lead role. It was Lord Byron in the play. It's a fantastic play, Bloody Poetry. So yeah, that was a whopper.
Was before that, even as a kid, you had never done any theater before that?
Only really, if you count like a shepherd and a Christmas play with no lines. Yeah, I could redo that for you.
But Janice, I'm telling you, wouldn't that be a fun thing to do?
That would be great. That would be very fun.
I'll even volunteer to help with it. I'll even
that's a great idea.
Help promote it. But it would be such a fun thing for the people in Hendersonville to do. Everybody does their first role, so we can take Kyle as a shepherd. They had one of the churches locally does a Christmas pageant each year. And I was disappointed, Kai, I played a rabbi. I was disappointed. I want to be baby Jesus, you know, and they wouldn't let me be baby Jesus, but I wanted to be. I thought that'd be great. But okay, so Kai, let's trace the both of you. So in terms of as a shepherd, then you got into it in the college level. And then what happened? You just got the bug at that point in time? It never left you?
Yeah, it kind of exploded something in me. Yeah, certainly. I grew up very bullied and so forth. So I was kind of inside myself. So when I did that, it just opened my personality up all the more. So I owe that to theater and all of my beginning experiences. Truly. I think that it can help people in that way. I really do.
Because one of the things that's always impressed me about you, Kai, also is that you review plays, you know, and I always enjoy reading your reviews of plays. But is that tough for you, though, in terms of, you know, knowing all the people and you want theater to do well, but is that a tough thing to do, to have to be kind of critical of theater?
You have to have thick skin to be a critic. A lot of people like to maybe think they're a critic just because they say something is good or bad, but there's more to being a critic than that. You have to be really unbiased. You have to be truthful. You have to, you know, analyze things accordingly. And, you know, it's not something for everyone. So I studied being a critic literally when I was a kid. Before I was in theater, I was reading and studying. So it's that, being a writer and studying that were really first art forms of mine.
Because one of the things that make me a terrible critic is that if I know somebody in a show, I'm going to love it. You know, it's just, I really, you know.
Not me.
Not me.
I'll get back for the Halloween play. But my wife will sometimes can't believe it. You know, she has a somewhat interest in theater, but I'll say, wow, wasn't that great? Or wasn't that person great? Whatever you do, I'll find something good about you. And Janice, you saying that's funny, that you're not that way. You can be critical.
No, I can analyze things. I mean, I'm just the type of person that always wants to make something better. So
Yeah.
I can always see where something fell short, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, you know, what can you do to make something better? That's where my mind always goes.
And one of the things that, again, I'm impressed about your mind is the fact that you, in several things I've seen you involved in, you kind of are this behind the scenes person, but really helpful. You know, in other words, you know, and you'll do something, you know, even if you're just taking Alex to a show or something, you don't just take him to the show. You say,
yeah, I become the stage mom and give everybody medication.
Well, no, that's what it is. I guess a stage mom.
Yeah.
But also, how about then in terms of all the stuff, the other stuff you do you have a favorite thing you do? Like, is it the marketing, or is it some specific aspect of what you do that you enjoy?
I enjoy marketing is fun to a point, but I enjoy basically operations and organizing people and organizing things and finding better ways to do things more efficient, that kind of thing. That's kind of, a project manager is my real profession. But I also do web design and marketing and stuff like that. So it's kind of, it all kind of marries together. But yeah, I mean, like, and I'm so thrilled that we have so many new people coming here. In the last couple of months, we have this new play development thing that we're doing. You know, it's something we've always wanted to do, kind of like what Magnetic Theater does, but we've never really had the opportunity to do it. And somebody came to me with the question if she could come and see some of our actors, because she's new and doesn't know the actors. And I said, you can come, but we didn't have anybody show up for auditions that day. But we got to talking, and she said she was in a group in Asheville and she was tired of driving up there. And so I said, well, go ahead and start one. So she's done it. Her name is Margie Royal. She's from Philadelphia area, and she has written plays like Kai and, you know, developed them and all kinds of stuff. So I put Kai with her because I said, oh, I know somebody else who knows how to do that. And literally just told the both of them, there you go, run, go do what you need to do. And we're on going on month 3.
Yeah, it's
and we've had great turnout. We've had new people show up that we've never seen before to read these plays.
And actors.
Playwrights. We had lady come all the way from Wilmington to have her play read. And that's just going great. And I think, you know, it's a huge place we can grow as a theater and develop new works, because there's a lot of people who don't want to go to Asheville. to do that. So we're really excited. Like I said, this is going on month 3, and we've already got another 2 to read, and people were having so much fun. I mean, the last one we did, we actually read one of Victoria Lambert's plays, and the guys were hilarious. I mean, everybody on stage was so funny. It was great. But then, but Kai's been doing that with Margie, and I just love the fact that I have 2 people that I can just say, go and do it. And that's kind of where our mindset is. We're looking for people who have experience, who really want to help make this theater what it can be and do some new and exciting things.
And talk a little bit more about it, so that you're meeting then, so the last 3 months, you're meeting once a month in this, okay? How often do you meet in this group?
Once a month is the actual gathering, yes. But so, behind the scenes, me and Margie and Janice and others are discussing and figuring out what we're going to do that month. And
so we had how many scripts submitted? I mean, there was like a lot. People submit their script, and then Kai and Margie read them, and they present us with, what they narrowed down, just so we can approve it to make sure it's something that can go on our stage. And and then they pick call the playwrights, tell them to come, and the playwright has to be here to see it and get the feedback. And then we have actors read the parts, and you can sign up online to get fill out the actor form if you want to be a part of it. They've just had so much fun, and I can't wait to see the next one.
And the Halloween show, we actually have one piece that I wrote it for this program and worked on it from the feedback I got from this, which was extremely helpful, and seeing an actor perform it. Mm-hmm. And now we get to see it actually staged on the Halloween show. It's called Kitchen Windows. So
I was going to ask you that, Kai. So in terms of the plays themselves, you mentioned the Halloween upcoming, but are these then short plays, or some of them full-blown plays, or is there?
Victoria's was a full length. So the first time we did monologue plays, and then some are short, like 10-minute plays, and then full length. So it's a hodgepodge of monologues, short plays, and full plays.
Very exciting. So now is the objective, Janice, that after they've been run through the workshop, whatever, that is the goal to eventually put them on stage?
Yes. Definitely the full length plays. That is what we would like to see happen. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be pretty exciting. So that would be like in next season.
We would try and do some workshopping, probably maybe during the summer. Like I would like to get another few months in and have some things to pick from, and what we think we could produce.
Kai, back to your point, Kai, and I think it's an interesting one. That must be tough for a playwright to write something and to write it, I guess, without hearing people say it. In other words, it's one thing to write a novel or short story, but to actually have voices say it, does it sometimes change your thinking about the play?
Yes. That's probably, writing is probably my original talent. I don't know where it comes from. You ask any real writer and you're just born with it. So I have these characters. I try to really define my characters so that I can tweak more things when I see it, like emotions, and does this work in the story? So that's kind of where I come at it, and it really helps me. And it's an unexplainable feeling for you to be a writer and first and even the second time hear your piece being performed. It's something that's unexplainable inside, that it's living in front of you. It comes out of here, and it's right before your very eyes, and it's humbling, truly.
Mm-hmm. Now, as a result, though, do you have to sometimes make changes?
Oh, yeah, of course.
What you hear?
The one I got this last time with Kitchen Windows, several people was like, it needs to be more vulgar. And I went, you're telling me that?
Be careful.
Well, yeah, it's funny because it segues into something I asked Janice off the air, and we might as well talk about it. If people want to see Kitchen Windows or some of the other things that will be happening, talk about the upcoming October production. I guess it'll be maybe a week or so after this show is on the air, that weekend. What's that all about, Janice?
So with the new play development discussions, we wanted to do something for Halloween, and Kai had said, he's like, I have a bunch of short stories and plays. And Margie said the same thing, that she had done it in Philadelphia and it was very successful. And I was like, well, that sounds great. How about you guys get together and pick out some stories? So that's what he did. And if you want to tell them the lineup, I mean, there's some original by Margie, Royal, and Kai. And then there's adaptations of Poe and some others.
Yeah. And several poets even were dropping poems in and so forth.
But it's going to be fully staged and costumed. And some people will be reading from like
very few.
Yeah, we've only got, we originally said, well, we'll have people reading from old books, but now a lot of people, it's going to be a lot of it memorized. So
Right.
it's going to be great.
And I'm probably wanting to get this out there most, that Blackberry Winter is actually going to be staged the first time since we took it to New York City and got into the competition. So that's the African-American play that I wrote that is very humbling to bring it to the community here, which was what was the goal anyway when we got back from New York City. So it's the first time, and I got Nikki back in the lead role. So I'm really excited to see that.
Okay, talk about then. So this show is going to be, I have it down, what, October 29th and 30th? And what time?
Yes.
What time is it?
7:30 p.m. and then that midnight show that we need people to come to, because that's really fun. We did it once here at the theater back when I was artistic director several years back now, and it was actually really successful. People come in costumes because it bled over into Halloween, and it was really fun. It's just a different crowd, a different vibe, and it's just really fun. So there's a lot of times I know when people can't sleep, or maybe we should stay up kind of like New Year's and do something. Well, this is your opportunity to do
So that's
that.
going to be on the 30th then.
Yes.
Mhm.
And are you asking people to come in costume?
Yes.
Yeah,
of
sure.
course.
Come on. It's Halloween.
And it will be like by the time it rolls around.
Yeah.
It's too bad you can't do it like a matinee show for me. You know, at 12:30, at 12 noon show. But anyway,
Us
so-
actors, it's
Yeah.
a known fact. We hate matinees.
I know,
We
right?
know you like them.
No,
we don't.
is that really, how come? Why is that so?
It's just you perform the night before, you get home around 11, and you have to get right back up, and you're not fully charged yet.
Mhm.
It's always a great
Interesting.
audience, but you have to really sometimes get yourself there with your energy level and your mind and emotions as an actor, if you're doing it right.
Well, how about this, Kai, though? The thing that impresses me, when many things about actors, but to do 2 shows a night, like you're going to do on the 30th, you have a 7:30 show, you're going to go right into a midnight show. Is that tough?
Yeah, 3-hour
yeah.
break.
Oh,
Yeah, I've done it. I worked at Flat Rock, and I've done it at Blue Ridge and several other times. It's not easy, but you have to get your body and your mind adjusted to knowing that that's coming up, and you have to truly take care of yourself.
Mhm.
You can't be out partying or whatever you might do, or staying up late watching Netflix or whatever. You have to treat your body very well and your mind and prep up for it, but it's fun.
well, the other thing that I can't believe you guys do this is that when you're doing one show, you then, Jen, sometimes they're doing like, they're in rehearsal for a second show. And, right now theater is finally coming back a little bit. So I don't think, or I shouldn't think it. Are you doing anything else at the same time? Are you working on anything upcoming?
We are, because the Halloween show was kind of a last minute thought. We had already scheduled Nonsense Jamboree.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So they're opening on November 5th, which is only a week after the Halloween show. So they're right now sharing the stage and space.
It's great.
One's practicing in the other space we have, and the other one, so they're working it out. Our fantastic stage manager, Drew Dykes, is managing both shows, so she's handling the calendar. But yeah, we in the future though, we're going to try not to
Right.
overlap things that much, so we can use our second stage space more as a rehearsal space.
Well-
and for workshops and the play reading and stuff like that.
I feel like when we started doing the Halloween thing, we Well, when I'm involved, of course, I always say, oh, it'll be easy and small, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But I had the advantage of all these wonderful actors some are really close friends I've worked with for years, and they're really good. And when I said, like, I'm doing something, I have this pool of people, oh, I'm in, because they know it's going to try to be creative if I'm involved, and that's humbling too. So it just come from a little pea shape into this big ball of, wow, we have really great actors and really great show. And I told them, I said, look, you're doing this just as much for you rather than the audience or anything. This is for you, and this is our gift to you in these times when we, haven't gotten to make our artistry come alive and
for so long.
Right. So
it's been too long.
Yeah, it's been too long, and it's beautiful to see them really going for it, and it healing them, So
well, Kai, let me ask you this. In terms of, you're now directing the Halloween show, is that
me
correct?
and Jonathan, yes.
Okay, is anybody else directing who's directing Nonsense?
No, just me and Jonathan Forrester.
Doing Nonsense?
No,
no.
Sabrina Rock is
Okay.
Sabrina Rock is a local comedian in Asheville. She's actually directing Nonsense for us.
Is anybody in both plays? Is anybody in the Halloween?
Yes.
Carly is.
Yes.
Okay, because that part just amazes me, that people can be in one thing and then rehearsing or into another. Have you, Kai, you had more experience, I guess, than Janice on this. Have you ever done three kind of thing, in one play, working on like two others at the same, you've done three at a time?
Oh yeah. And writing and other creative things. Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. I've directed, been in one, writing something. Yeah. And again, it's not easy. Sometimes it's really great, especially for somebody that likes to jump around over here like I do. But sometimes you can drop one too many things on there if you're not careful.
well, and then what also happens, just kind of blows me away, is that on top of that, some plays require to have like 2 or 3 or 5 characters. They have to play, many different characters. And that's just, like Janice, my memory it never was anywhere, but to have to memorize that and then have to memorize it in different characters. Talk a little bit about the Nonsense thing. I'm kind of excited about. So I've seen other Nonsense ones, but this is a different one.
Yeah, this one is the Sister Amnesia, who is the country western girl, the nun. She is doing her world tour or something. She's going to be. It's basically all country western music, and we have a live band, and we've got a fiddle player and a bass, so it's going to be great. We have our music directors are Richard and Sandy Riccardi, who are new to Asheville area. They're from California. They have quite a following online. They do parodies of music, and they perform up at Black Horse Mountain.
Oh yeah,
Lodge.
I've seen that. They're fantastic.
They're fantastic.
By the way, hopefully you'll have them for a musical, concert or something.
Yes, we will.
They're best.
Yes.
But let me thank you so much. I have a personal bug that I'm so happy you're doing this live, because I don't know, Kai, if you've seen it, but almost every local theater now is moving to tracks, and to me, there's no comparison. Even if you just have one piano player.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Oh, totally.
So that's, I was just going to ask you that. So it's a live musical. It's live music.
Yeah.
Yet,
it's great. I mean, it's always preferred. Unfortunately, though, it kind of doubles the cost of doing your show. So yeah, we are. We're doing it though. We have to. It's just it has to be.
Well, I'll ask Kai, even from a critic standpoint, when people tell me, trying to save money and getting the track, that almost be like saying, well, why don't you do that with the actors as well? Why don't you just have, it'd be like, just mouth the words, you don't need to say it. So I'm there then. I was going to ask it, not since I'd see it because it's going to be at your place, but the fact that you have live music, and they're so talented. I can't believe it.
Yes.
And you will definitely have them in concert?
Oh yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah. I know. I just got to work out dates with them. We're planning next season now. So we're going to put them on as soon as we get our licensed shows from all of the places. Then we're going to slot things in like Wendy Jones and, Richard and Sandy, Karen Covington Yao. We're
Sure.
going to ask her to do some stuff for us and kind of slot those things in as a one weekend only. Because Wendy Jones did a show a couple months ago here, her Rosemary Clooney show, and it did great. And our audience loved it. And they were like, when are you going to do more? And so it was just it's right up our audience alley. I mean, they love it. They think the live music was great. And it's a great venue for live music.
It is, no, but just the concept that I just love.
Yep.
And let's talk a little bit as we go into then, I can't believe we're now going into, quote, a new season, that can you share any tentative plans or anything that's going to be happening, or it's all up in the air?
It's all up in the air right now because we haven't even read some of the things, but we're planning to do 2 musicals, 3 straight plays, comedy, drama, etc., and then work in possibly a workshop that was recently done in Asheville, country bluegrass musical.
Right. Oh yeah.
So we're going to try and read and try and workshop that again here as soon as we talk to the author.
But the same one that
playwright.
was same one done at Magnetic.
Yes,
Did you see it at Magnetic?
I costumed it at Magnetic.
Duh. Okay, it was great though. What a
Yeah.
show!
Yeah.
And so I'd love Tom to do it. You know,
Yep.
have him come to your place. But that's
Yeah.
very, very exciting. So how
So,
is
yeah.
it? How is it, Janice? Now becoming president of the board. You know, in your spare time.
Yeah, my spare time, which I don't have anymore. 2 years ago, I didn't have a job, and now I have a full-time job. So yeah, it's a little challenging. But I think it's, you know, my main goal is to build a staff and a board that is going to really take us into the next century. I mean, we need a lot of things to happen here. And I think we're on the right track. I mean, I love that Kai is back. Victoria Lambert has come back a little bit, helping us with some marketing. And Jonathan Forrester is still here with us. And so we're bringing in new people, you know, which is great. I get resumes across my email every day, and people that are moving to this area with 30 plus years experience in theater from New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, everywhere. And I'm just saying, come on down and let's make it happen. So as soon as we get these shows done, then we're into full force of getting a staff put together. And so if anybody wants to send a resume, go visit our website. And if anyone wants to volunteer for anything else,
We'll put you backstage in the Halloween
fill
show.
out our form.
And let me ask you, Kai, this question in terms of the many things you do, and I probably don't know half of them. Do you have a favorite thing you do? In other words, is it directing or writing or acting, or do you have a favorite?
Somebody like me that does all that, your mind shifts back and forth. So that's a hard question to answer, but I really, when I started directing this, and I thank you so much for this opportunity. I mean that it reminded me how much it means to me to create something. I'm starting to cry because it's true. So I
Yeah.
really like writing and directing. If I had to pick, that's probably what it would be.
It's funny because Janice made a good point before about acting and having to memorize lines. And almost every actor, director I've spoken to, almost all of them say they prefer directing, Janice, you know. And I think the reason is because they no longer have to memorize, you know, lines.
I think it's a more creative
It is,
process.
right, they
I think
say
it's
that,
just
yeah.
it's so creative. I mean, I've been, you know, watching Victoria direct the last couple of shows I've worked with her on. It's amazing. Even just watching Kai the other night, we popped in at the last person he had in there at like 10 o'clock. And I mean, he just, you know, the way he just makes the actors feel more and see more. And it was just, to me, it's fascinating. I think it's amazing. It was awesome.
And you mentioned Victoria Lambert before. She also is amazing in that she's such a talented actor, but boy, is she a good director. I saw it, the very first time I ever saw it was a play at your place with the one about the costumes, you know, the women.
Oh yeah, Stage Kiss, I think, right?
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It was such a static play, and I'd seen it elsewhere just as a reading, and she made it come alive. It was one of the best directing jobs I've ever seen.
Love, Lost, and What I Wore.
That's the one.
Yeah,
That was
that was
excellent.
great.
But
Yeah.
Kai, I'd seen it before just as a reading, and it was
Yes.
okay. But
Right.
boy, it was so exciting to see your play. So director can make a
Huge difference.
big difference.
Yeah.
Beth
Yeah.
Norris was excellent.
Oh, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
play.
That play was amazing.
Yeah.
It was just each of the actors. And again, I had no interest in seeing it, but just so you convinced me nonsense, I had marginal interest in seeing it, because I've seen all the other nonsense and they're okay. But the fact that it's live music transcends it. And if you can continue it, because I just think, I say
That's the goal.
even with the
That is the
piano,
goal.
but even with the piano player, it's great. Let me ask you guys to wrap up here. If folks want to get more information about the Halloween show, getting involved with volunteer, the whole bit, what's the best bet?
Visit the website, hendersonvilletheatre.org, and it's THEATRE, or call our box office at 692-1082. It's got all of that information on Facebook. It's all over Facebook. I'm going to get it all over Instagram soon. But yeah, just visit the website. That's where the most up-to-date information will be, including things like our COVID policy and all that kind of stuff. So.
And it's going to be a really great show.
Yeah.
It's a costume play too.
If you're involved in it, Kai, it's going to be. And I think our next guest is waiting. So I want to say goodbye to you guys. Hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Good seeing you, Kai.
Thank
Janice,
you.
thanks again.
Bye,
Speak to you
everyone.
soon. Okay, so if you stay with me, Dr. Armstrong, I'll be with you in 1 second. And I'm just going to make a brief announcement that WPVM's mission is to foster a community through programming that cultivates dialogue to inform and entertain. The station provides the medium for artists, businesses, community leaders, and nonprofits to share their voices on live radio and also Facebook. Listeners are invited to help support WPVM's efforts by making a tax-deductible contribution. You can do so by going to the website, WPVMFM.org, and click the donate option on the upper right-hand side. My next guest is Dr. Noreal Armstrong. And welcome aboard, Dr. Armstrong. You can wave to all your fans and friends in Facebook world.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Great. Well, hopefully they're all well. I should mention Dr. Armstrong is CEO and Executive Director of A Therapist Like Me. Her background, let's see, is she's a former associate professor and clinical mental health department chair at Montreat College. She is a nationally certified counselor and a licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor. Dr. Armstrong has several presentations at all levels, published articles and book chapters, and in August, past August, published a lifespan development textbook. Very good. Talk to me about that's cool. What's the textbook?
Thank you so much. The textbook is Counseling and Teaching Across the Lifespan, a Humanistic Perspective. And so it's at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or people can go directly to Cognella. They're out of San Francisco, directly to the publishing company to order the textbook if they would like to use it in their classrooms. And it's reasonable for high school through college and even master's programs.
Very cool. Is that the first book you had ever written?
It is the first book fully, yes. So I've done book chapters for other books before, but this is the first one that I have been the editor and author with 2 other colleagues.
Very cool. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting you, Dr. Armstrong, just maybe a couple months ago at a Different Strokes performance. And that's why I had never heard of your organization before, but you made a presentation. So this is really cool. Okay. And so I said to myself, I want to get this woman on board. And so let me ask you, before you even talk about your organization, that you grew up where?
I grew up in Texarkana, Texas. I'm a Texas girl, born and bred.
When you were a little girl growing up in Texas, did you always know you wanted to be in the mental health profession?
I didn't always know, but I knew pretty early on. I tell people around 8th grade is when I decided I was going to be a famous fashion designer. I was going to live in Paris and go to all the runway shows and design. And unfortunately, I saw like a Paris Fashion Week, and I was like, I would design that now. I would do that now. I was like, well, if it's already out there now, how could I make it fresh when I'm only in the 8th grade? By that point, my parents had divorced. They divorced when I was in the 6th grade. They still get along swimmingly well. They just didn't work as a married couple. But I had just gone through some things, and I had friends who were going through things, and everybody would come to me and come to me and come to me. And I just started having questions like, why do we do what we do as human beings? Why do we get divorced? Why do we have arguments? Why do we harm others? Why do we murder? And so I got so involved in the human psyche and why we do what we do, that around 8th grade, I knew I wanted to be a therapist. I knew I wanted to have some role in mental health and mental wellness.
Very cool. So then now up until 8th grade or even after, had you gone through any counseling or had you worked with any mental health professionals?
No, my dad is a social worker,
Okay.
he retired about 4 years ago. And so I think maybe sometimes just sitting in his office after school, he'd come pick me up, and sitting in his office and just, I would hear things. I wasn't focusing in, but I would hear things. I would ride along with him sometimes when he'd be out checking on some of his families, just making sure that they're okay, making sure they have what they need. So maybe subliminally, it was there, but I myself hadn't ever gone to counseling or had any direct issue with it. It's just that like I said, I had friends coming to me. I had friends that struggle with depression. Probably around high school, I had one friend who tried to commit suicide, and their mom, I guess in their note, they wrote to contact me. So their mom called me, and I was probably a junior in high school, so I had a car by then. So I drove to the hospital and sat by their side. And so just as life progressed, it really just kind of made this path for me that this is what I was going to be on.
What's really cool about your story, and hopefully other people can take advantage of it as well, is that you decided fairly early in terms of your life that it's the direction you want to go in. And I tell folks, if they can make that decision, the earlier the better, just because I guess, did you find that it helped your studies in general, and you were studying in school, that you knew you wanted to eventually be in this field?
I think what it helped was that I was very focused. I have a friend who I'm going to actually see later this week who was in undergrad with me. And in one of my birthday cards she wrote a couple of years ago, she mentioned how proud she was of me, but that she also was inspired by me because when she met me when we were 18, she's like, you already knew and had a set plan for your life. Like you knew exactly what you wanted to do. And she was like, and I didn't. And so being your friend helped me determine what I wanted to do. And I was just like, I never thought about it like that. So I think that for me, it mostly just gave me direction, and I kind of knew my path, and I didn't waver from it pretty much from undergrad through my master's program and my doctorate program. It changed, it evolved, it adapted to just the times that we're living in, to different situations. But the main idea of mental health and wanting to be a mental health counselor, it stuck. And I feel like it helped me just focus my attention on my education, and just helped me kind of progress in a way that I think had I not known in 8th grade, I might have tried over here and tried over there, which is not a bad thing. And I've worked with a lot of therapists who started out in a different profession. Some started out as nurses, some started out as police officers, some started out and realized that this is really not where I feel called, or this is not really where I want to be. I want to be a helper. We've had ministers to not leave the ministry, but have decided to then come and be therapists.
What's interesting, what you said, is the point that you can always make a change, but I think the earlier you start looking at something, the better, as opposed to just floundering around. I don't care if you change 17 times, but at least you're looking in a positive way. And you're one of the first people who actually said that, 18, that's pretty cool, or even earlier than 18. So then you became, so as an undergraduate, what was your major?
Undergrad, my major was psychology.
Okay. And then master's was
counseling psychology. So I added the counseling aspect to it. And then my doctorate is in counselor education and supervision. Okay.
So you just stuck with it, and you're still with it today. That kind of segues into your work with, and help me a little bit with this. I love the title. The first time I heard it, A Therapist Like Me. First of all, a great name for an organization, right? What was the idea behind that name?
Mm-hmm. So the idea, Katie Below, who started A Therapist Like Me, she was noticing that a lot of people, either self-referrals or people that were being referred to her, were really being referred for her, not for her skill level, not for her specialty set, that maybe she worked in substance abuse, or maybe she did PTSD or EMDR, but they were looking at her and saying, something about you looks familiar to me. Something about you looks similar, whether that is my ethnicity, our religion, our sexual orientation, our neurotype, something about you I feel I can connect with. I feel like it's like me. And so she wanted to put together an organization that paired therapists with clients or clients with therapists that look like them. And not just on the physical. Like I said, we look at sexual orientation, gender, sexual identity, religious identity, ethnicity, race. We kind of fill the gamut, neurotypical, all of disability. We take all that into consideration. So a lot of our therapists on the directory meet one of those intersections, if not more. They might meet multiple. And therefore, when clients go looking for therapists, if I am a African-American disabled veteran, I might be able to find an African-American disabled veteran therapist on this website and connect with them, because now they share intersections with me that maybe a therapist who isn't a vet or isn't African-American can understand, or isn't disabled can understand where I'm coming from.
Terrific concept, but let me ask you how important that is. In other words, that if somebody needs counseling, they're listening to the show or whatever, is it, I guess, not necessarily a good idea, or just an idea, something that they should seek out, that they should try to find somebody like them? How important is that?
It's very important. Teaching counseling, which I did for a long time, we have our multicultural class and we try to teach multicultural competence. But sometimes the best teacher is lived experience. We can teach it from a book all day. We can watch videos. We can have very in-depth, passionate classroom discussion. But the more you interact with different groups of people and get to really know that group of people, that person, for who they are, you kind of build that relationship. It becomes natural. You feel more comfortable. You feel more accepted. You feel like you belong. And so when you have a therapist who actually already meets one of those intersections, although it may not line up perfectly, every Black person doesn't have the same lived experience. Every lesbian doesn't have the same experience. Every person with a disability doesn't have the same exact lived experience. But for those that are shared, it kind of already brings that into the room. And so I might feel connected to you sooner. I might trust you sooner. I might be able to build rapport with you, as if I'm the therapist and someone is my client, make them feel at ease sooner, or they may feel more comfortable just telling me about their life experience because they know that there's a certain level that I get it, I understand, versus a client or therapist who doesn't share that intersection. And not only now do I have to tell you about my experience, I may have to even go a little further and educate you on why that experience is causing me some harm, or causing me to not be able to function at my best level, or causing me to need to come to counseling. And so it's that extra step that sometimes sharing an intersection or sharing a status with somebody saves, and it's already built in.
We'll talk about what you mentioned before about, you said you have a directory. So if somebody sees the show on Facebook Live or hears us on the radio, and they say they want to get in touch with you, and we'll talk about that in a second, they would then be presented, or there's a directory that they can look at to show the experiences of people?
Yes. So on our website, www.atherapistlikeme.org, if you go to that website, at the very top, you can click on our directory. And they'll see two things. One, they'll see all the therapists that are listed on our directory. And two, they'll see the therapists who accept vouchers also listed on our directory. And some are the same. You'll see some of the same therapists and some you won't. But under our directory, you will see therapists, and outside of their name and their contact information and how to get in touch with them and their fee for services, you'll see the intersections that they identify with. So whereas it used to be maybe I would put my specialty, for example, my specialty is working with adolescents, my specialty is working with substance abuse, my specialty is working with the deaf population. Instead of having my specialties only listed there, I could have my specialties, but also my intersection. So for me, I would put that my ethnicity of being African-American, and I would probably, even though I am a Christian, I would probably put religion just because I've had some extensive training in other religions. Whereas somebody else might put that they're a veteran, they have a disability, they're LGBTQ+. And so therefore, anyone who's looking they can see, oh, this person aligns with a lot of the things that I have going on, or this person has a disability and I have a disability, or this person is a neurotypical and so am I. And so maybe they would understand. It's not a guarantee that that therapist is going to match up perfectly with you, and you're not going to need to maybe seek other services, but it just allows them to seek out and find people who have similar intersections.
What I give you folks a lot of credit on doing is, on top of that, offering this service, making it available to the public, meaning that too often times you look at a directory, and, you know, for a counselor or anybody else, and you'll just see the degree, you know, and that's it. And you have to then sign up, or you have to register. Is your directory available to, if you just go to the website, anybody can see it, or do they have to log into it?
Nope, anyone can see it from just going to the website. For therapists out there who may want to join the directory,
Right.
there's an application that they
Sure.
fill out, and they can fill that out, put in their information, we review it, and that's pretty simple to become a directory member. For any clients out there who are looking for therapists, nope, you just go to the website, search, see if someone find someone, you know, interests you, you feel like you can connect with, and then you as the client have the autonomy to reach out directly to that therapist. They don't have to go through us as a therapist, like
Very
we
nice.
list the names, and they have the right to reach out at their own leisure.
How many people are listed right now in the directory, approximately?
Right now, approximately, I feel we have about 20 therapists
Okay.
listed. I'm doing my best since taking over in this role to increase that number. We're actually getting ready to do kind of a directory drive, for lack of a better word, to get some other therapists involved, kind of get out to the universities and schools, so that as students are graduating and looking to be able to advertise and get their name out there in the community, wanting them to know that our directory is a space for them.
Explain, if you would, Dr. Armstrong, what you mentioned before. You said about a voucher. Explain the process that, let's say I'm interested in the organization, a therapist like me, and so I go to the directory. Who qualifies for it? And then how do you become involved in getting vouchers or getting working through you?
Sure, of course. So with our voucher process, you go to the website, you click on the tab for vouchers. There is a training that those who receive vouchers, so therapists who receive a voucher or take a voucher from a client, there's a training that they have to go through to know that process, so they're aware of how it works, what to expect, when they'll get paid out, all the good information. But then the client who is interested in being a voucher member or receiving vouchers, they also have a training to go to that provides them with information of what is going to be required, what does this mean, how does it work. It's a very informative training, just to kind of go over all the basics so that they are aware of what they're getting into. Once they review that training and go through that process, then they complete an application for the voucher. And then this application, we are gathering information on why they're seeking counseling. Have they found a therapist that's already on our directory? We find out about their insurance. Do they have it? And then we ask questions that align with those intersections that we're looking at. So gender, sexual orientation, sexual identity, disability, other minority identified statuses. We also require that there's proof of income, whatever that may be, because again, our goal is to help those who struggle to pay for therapy. And we know that everybody has different needs and different financial responsibilities. So we have a scoring rubric that we use, and we have blind reviewers. They don't get to see the names of the people who've applied, and they just simply review the information on the application. And once that information is reviewed, then there's a scoring number that a person ends up with. The higher the number equates to the higher of the need. And so our goal is to make sure that we provide support for those with the higher numbers first. And then as there's still funds available, we will go and give funds to those maybe in the lower numbers. Up to this day, we've done 8 voucher reviews, and for each one, we've been able to give 100% of the funds requested out. So anyone who has sought us, who has sought support through vouchers, we've been able to say yes, and here you go, as long as they met all the requirements that we put for the application process. We've been able to give funds away at each one of our 8 reviews so far since being open.
To me, what's exciting about this is that it seems like also you're reaching people who either have not gone for counseling in the past or have not had access to counseling. And this is an opportunity. I mean, is that probably what's happened in the past, that most of these people haven't had extensive counseling or work with mental health professionals?
I feel like that's probably the majority. I feel we have had a few on there who have had counseling before. What we have seen here lately, of course, because of COVID, and we opened early in 2019, and we know that, COVID came late 19 into 20. And so we had, in the middle of our kind of really going, we had people who were saying, I was going to my counselor, but I've been out of work for 6 months and I can't afford to pay them anymore. So they're wanting to get the support to help pay the counselor because they love their therapist. Their therapist is really helping them. They want to continue to go. So I feel like there's a good mixture. Initially, I think we did have a good amount of people who hadn't gone to therapy before because maybe it was too expensive, or they didn't really know, well, what happens in counseling, and why do I need to talk to somebody? And, is something wrong if I go and talk? Am I broken? Am I crazy if I go talk to somebody? And so I do feel that we've helped decrease the stigma, which is one of our main key goals. And we did see a good uptick in people who hadn't sought therapy, but due to COVID and people losing their jobs and being home more and dealing with family dynamics more in school than kids, we have seen people who are like, no, I had a therapist, I just need some financial support to keep seeing them.
Let me ask you, Dr. Armstrong, because of COVID, has some of the counseling been and will continue to be done virtually?
I believe so. I believe that a lot of our therapists, we have some therapists who are back in their practices, seeing clients face to face. But for the most part, a lot of our therapists are still virtual for safety reasons, for being taking precaution. But I also feel like a lot of people have been able to be helped that maybe wouldn't have been helped due to being able to see their therapist virtually. And because as long as you're licensed in a state, you can see clients across. So I could have a client in Durham, I could have a client in Charlotte, I could have a client in Raleigh. But before, when everybody was just coming into my office, that limited me to only seeing clients that maybe lived in a 30-mile radius because of that drive. And so we have clients who they live here in Asheville, but their therapist is in Charlotte, but they love their therapist. And they get to still work with them through the power of technology and being on Zoom or some of the DoxyMe, some of the different online tools. So I think that a part of this, even when the dust has settled on COVID and we're living in this new normal, whatever that may look like, I still truly believe that more therapists will continue to have a virtual component to their therapy.
Well, it's like the same thing too, Dr. Armstrong, with the radio show. I just love the fact that you and I can talk now, as opposed to otherwise I would have had to have you come downtown Asheville Park, spend 3-4 hours, by the time you leave and come back. And it's a pleasure, so I can imagine for both counselors and also clients, it's kind of a pleasure that they can be at home, they can be with their kids if the situation like that. They don't have to give up a half a day to just, be available. And so I want to ask you, as a counselor, how do you feel about counseling virtually? Or you've done some, I assume?
I have.
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I feel like it has allowed me to offer services to people that maybe wouldn't have been able to get services before because maybe they share a vehicle with their loved one and they work and they're gone in the car, or they don't have a vehicle, but they are fortunate enough to have maybe a laptop or an iPad or even a phone. And I think that's the other piece too, is that you could have a smartphone, which so many people at least have a smartphone these days, that you can have your therapy from your phone. You don't have to have the technology of a computer or an iPad and can still receive services. A lot of the things that I do in therapy with my clients, I'm still able to do virtually. Some of the hands-on things I'm not able to do as much, or it may require that I, ask the client, get a piece of paper, if you have some colors. Sometimes I like to do art, in therapy or music, which I can still do pretty easily over the computer. I can share my screen, things like that. But some of the more hands-on activities, if I have them want to do a meditation or use a sand tray or use the whiteboard, some of those things get lost. But I've fortunately, I think, been a little creative enough to kind of navigate around it to still get some of the same benefits of doing those things. So for me, I find that it has been enjoyable. It's been very accessible, and I see myself keeping up with some of it, and then having, because I think there are those clients who do benefit from being in person in the space with the therapist. Excuse me. But for others, I think the virtual version of counseling is still very, very, very beneficial.
And like I said, I like how you described it. So I guess giving people a choice, if they want to come in and you're available and they're available, fine. But if not, here's another option. Talk, if you would, Dr. Armstrong, we have a couple minutes left here, about the whole thing that you do, therapists like me, working with the fact that people still have a kind of a negative view, or some people do, about the mental health field, and that this is something that is not for everybody. How do you deal with that in terms of making mental health available to the whole Asheville and the whole country?
Right. For me, I personally try to humanize it. I try to normalize it, and I try to talk to those who aren't in the profession just in a person-to-person type way, and explain that counseling really is 50 minutes of you being able to focus completely on you without judgment, without disdain, and with support and care. And I think when people hear it as that, it's not that you're broken and you need to be fixed. It's not that you're crazy or there's something misfiring or miswiring in your brain. Those things may be true, but that is not what counseling is about. What counseling is about is sitting across from someone who's having a human experience, and you joining them and meeting them in that human experience and saying, okay, I may not know exactly what you're going through, but I'm going to walk with you through this, and I'm going to help you decide how best you want to deal with it. I might not agree, and that's okay. It's not my job to agree with what a client wants to do. It's my job to help them feel best about the decision that they're making for that moment in their life, and then help them figure out how to move forward in that decision. And if we're doing that as therapists, we're doing our job. So I try to kind of have that conversation when I'm talking at churches or going into the community or talking to my friend. It's not about anything other than just having that human connection with someone and helping them figure out, what is this about? What is going on with me? How do I feel about this? And how do I want to resolve it? And then helping them come up with a plan to do so. Sometimes that can be done in as short as 5 to 8 sessions. Sometimes you might have a client for 2 or 3 years because they have more stuff to unpack. They have more experiences that they need to work through, and that's totally okay.
Talk about your role as a therapist. And I guess perhaps one of the more satisfying things about what you do is when you see somebody make a breakthrough, when you see somebody make a change, and you kind of indicated there, I was going to ask you, sometimes it can be done shortly, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. What's that for you, like a therapist, when you see it finally, it clicks?
Yeah, it's amazing. It is truly amazing. I think the best word to describe it, especially when you see the work that the client puts in and they have that aha moment, or they finally come to a resolution about a relationship, or they make a decision about moving or staying or resigning from a job or starting a new job, or they find resolution in talking with a loved one that they haven't spoken to in 20 years over something that they can barely remember what happened. Yeah. So for me as a therapist, and I think for many of the therapists that I work with, it is satisfying. It is validating that we are doing what we're called to do, and that we are empowering really the client to do the work, because without them, we're just kind of sitting in the room. So the client ultimately has to do the work to find what they're looking for. We just kind of, guide here, listen here, maybe ask a question or two to get you thinking about something that maybe because you're in the forest, you can't see the trees, to think to ask yourself. That's a lot of what we do. And then when they're able to see clearly, it's like, yes, go forth, do what you need to do.
Dr. Armstrong, if anybody wants to get in touch with a therapist like me, what's the best bet?
The best bet is to go to our website, www.therapistlikeme.org. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. A Therapist Like Me is how you'll find us. You can always email admin@atherapistlikeme.org if you have questions, and that is how they can get a hold of us.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Armstrong, for being my guest the second half hour on the BLAINESWORLD show. Also my guest the first half hour, Janice Guazzo, Clyde Hamilton, my producer, Amy Prisnash. Hope to see you folks next Wednesday. Dr. Armstrong, if you just stay with me off the air, we'll wrap up. Thanks again for being our guest.
Thank you.